where you are now, more of your life has been filled with the negatives of bipolar disorder than the positives of living. But if you can intentionally remember past good times, whether it's holidays, Christmases, dinners, movies, concerts, vacation, something in childhood, a day that you're just like, that was a good day. Being intentional about remembering what it felt like and starting to formulate a plan to get back to it with the knowledge that you've already done it before breeds a lot of hope, because it's always easier to do something that you've already done.
You're listening to Inside Bipolar, a Healthline Media podcast, where we tackle bipolar disorder using real-world examples and the latest research.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Gabe Howard, and I live with bipolar disorder.
And I'm Dr. Nicole Washington, a board-certified psychiatrist.
And today we're going to talk about hope. And I want to confess, Dr. Nicole, the pessimist in me, the anxious person in me, the depressed person in me, the bipolar person in me is like, really? Hope has value? Well, I am hopeless. I want to be hopeful, but what scientific medical documentation can you provide that hope has any value whatsoever? So I do struggle as if we're giving value to our listeners to what? Discuss hope? What a nebulous concept.
Well, that was pretty negative, Gabe.
I think about, we only get so many episodes, right? And we want to cover mania. We want to cover depression. We want to cover suicidality. We want to cover latest trends. We want to be able to explain what people with bipolar disorder go through. And we want to talk about hope.
Yeah.
But it's, you see my struggle though, right? Like, could you imagine if somebody was suffering from, suicidal depression and you're like, hey, you know what you need? Hope. Hope is important. There's this part that intellectually hope is important, but really, like, you're a doctor. You ever prescribed hope?
No, there are a lot of things I don't prescribe to people that are intangible, that can't be touched and well defined and are nebulous topics. But it's not that I don't want each and every one of my patients to have hope. Like I absolutely want everyone that I see to have this hope that things are going to get better, to have this hope of an expectation or have some random desire that they want related to their bipolar disorder. I want them to have hope. Absolutely. I think hope is what drives you to continue to even fight, even when you don't feel like fighting. I mean, without hope, why would you even try?
See, and that was the pitch. That's the pitch that got me. That's when I fell apart and I was like, okay, so clearly I had to be hopeful for a better tomorrow, or why try? I had to believe that I could get better, which is the basis of hope. So even though I wasn't using words like, oh, I'm hopeful I'll get better, I was in fact hopeful that I got better. And I ultimately believed it, and I worked really hard. And in my bipolar journey, Dr. Nicole, it took 4 years. So, obviously at some points during that journey, literally all I had was hope. And I found this really great quote by H. Jackson Brown Jr. And it says, never deprive someone of hope. It might be all they have. And that really spoke to me. And we did a lot of research for this episode. We've got a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of ways to help people who think like me have more hope.
Yeah. And I actually believe you can have hope and not necessarily have belief that it's actually going to happen. Like I really do think that there are people out there who can say, I hope that I can achieve this particular goal, and that's why I keep trying, but I don't know that I really believe I can, because they haven't. Like, I think for a lot of people, especially early on in their illness, they're not sure. They literally have no clue. Can I achieve stability again? Will I ever have a time in my life when I'm not depressed, when I'm not manic, when I'm not hypomanic, when I'm not mixed, when I'm not fluctuating from mood episode to mood episode? Will I ever have a time where I can say my mood feels normal? They don't know, because they're so new to this thing. They have no idea. But I do believe they have the hope that maybe it's possible.
Believing that it can happen is the first step towards making it so. Right. To use a really extreme analogy, anybody who pays that dollar to buy that lottery ticket, the odds are astronomical. Billions of billions to one, but you hope you win. And you hope so much you put a dollar behind it. And I think there really is some wisdom there for people with bipolar disorder. Look, maybe when you start off, when you're first diagnosed, when you go through all the trauma that you've been through and you think of everything, you think my odds of getting better are the same as winning the lottery. But you believe that you can win the lottery, and now you believe that you can get better. That's a start. And I think that start is really, really powerful. And let's build off of that, because your odds of beating bipolar disorder are actually significantly better than winning the lottery.
I was going to say.
I know. But you have to admit, Dr. Nicole, for most of us, we do think it's like winning the lottery. I mean, it's just, it's so terrifying, especially in the very early days. When we talk about hope, right? One of the things that gives me hope, like me personally, we're doing this one first because it's my favorite. There's no order to any of this except that this one's my favorite. I need to make plans. I need to have something to look forward to. That creates a sense of purpose and hope and anchors me to things. And you're thinking, Gabe, give me an example of this thing that you hope to look forward to, like wellness, for example? No. Movies, concerts, events, something that you buy a ticket for and leave your house to do. For me, it's primarily concerts. Dr. Nicole, what is it for you? You don't even have bipolar disorder and you use this. You love to make plans.
Oh, absolutely. Planning is actually part of my self-care. Making plans. I love the ocean. I love the beach. I live smack dab in the middle of the country where there is no ocean or beachfront to be found. I love to put my toes in the sand. So for me, planning a trip, and I mean, it can be the big trips that you plan a year for, are things that give me hope. It can be the big ones, but it can also be the small getaways. It can be the weekend getaway to a place that I can drive to within 4 hours that we can go to on a quick weekend, and I can plan to try a restaurant. I'm a huge foodie, so try a restaurant I've never been to. Cooking becomes part of my whole. I plan. Next month, I'm going to try this one recipe that's super complicated and I'm going to research it to death for the next month. Those things, having plans and things to look forward to, can absolutely be helpful, especially when, like now, the world is just a troubling place to try to exist in.
I love looking forward to big things, the great big vacation or the really expensive concert, the monumental, life-changing bragging event. But I want to make sure that the people listening know that it could also just be the new movie that's coming out in a couple of months that's, 20 minutes away at the local Cineplex. And here's why. It's not just about the thing. Right. We all know we're going to like the thing, whether it's the new movie or the play or the concert or the vacation. We want to do that thing, but there's also all of the things that surrounding it. I'm going to use a movie as an example because I think that it's very accessible. And I make the plan to go to the movie and I make it with a friend, and my friend and we start doing things to prepare for it. And you think, what do you do to prepare for a movie? Well, a lot of movies now are sequels. So we go watch the originals, whether we watch them separately or together. We rewatch the first ones leading into it. Then we start discussing them, the things that we forgot, the things that we remember, the things that we like. Then we start making predictions. We're having these little water cooler discussions, for lack of a better phrasing, about what we think's going to happen, what we hope's going to happen, what we want's going to happen. And then I know this is going to sound really, really lame, but honestly, I made a deal with myself about a year ago that I'm going to start treating the mundane like an event. So I don't show up in my normal clothes, the hoodie that I throw on or the sweatpants. No. I wear the nice shirt. I make sure I'm clean shaven. I do my hair. I put on the cologne. I approach this like I'm doing something. And then it starts to feel like I'm doing something.
While I do value the big things that I can plan, mostly because they're more in depth and I can spend more time planning for them, and I enjoy that part of it. But I'm a sucker for the things that cost me nothing. I am a sucker for looking forward to spending a night alone. Right? I am married. I have children. It's rare that I'm alone. I look forward to planning a night just for me. For some people, the things that they look forward to aren't things that involve them at all. They're things that fill them up. So if I am someone who cares about animals, I may decide I'm going to volunteer at this animal shelter. One, I feel like I'm giving back to these animals who've been left and who are searching for love and companionship. But also I feel good. Like I leave and I just feel great. And just that feeling of feeling good might be what you're looking forward to. So it doesn't have to be a place, a thing, a trip. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It could really be anything. Heck, your something to look forward to could be getting to the place where you can be alone and feel good being alone with your thoughts. That might be your place of what you're hoping to get to. Hope can be anything.
I love planning things to look forward to because it does provide me a lot of hope. It's also where my memories come from. When I am feeling depressed, anxious, lonely, even sad or emotional or just tired or beat down or hopeless, I remember the concerts that I've been to, the dinners that I've been to, the walks that I've taken, the vacations that I've gone on, and they sort of fill me with a sense of, yeah, for the most part, I've had a bad run, but remember that time. And I go to the remember that time well a lot. Not as often as I need to. It is not a perfect system, but I do go there a lot, and it does provide me with some joy and some happiness.
I was going to ask you, how do you do that? How do you keep it in a place that allows you to pull it back up as you need it, right? I think what happens for a lot of people is in those moments, they feel good and they say, yeah, this was great. I really enjoyed this feeling. I'm with people I care about. I laughed. I felt present. This was really good. But then 2 weeks later, if and when they find themselves back into that dark place, that hopeless place, it's not always easy to recall that moment and feeling that way. How do you document that in a way that allows you to pull it up?
Yeah, so there's two things that I want to say about this. One, I think one of the things that keeps the past events close to your heart and close to mind is having future events. So I think that's why it's important to make sure that you're constantly planning, because as it becomes part of your routine to know that you have something to look forward to. My goal is to always have at least one thing to look forward to, because that one thing in the future will remind me that that's something that I do. And because it's something that I do, it's something that I've done. And therefore, it sort of reminds me to look backwards as well. So that's the first thing that I want to say. I think they feed each other. But two, one of the things that I use is I do take pictures, and I try to remember to be in the moment. I don't want to spend the whole thing on my phone taking pictures, taking videos, because then you miss the thing, right? But I try to make it a point to take selfies of the people that I'm with, to take pictures of, the concert stage, or, I have so many pictures of me holding a giant bucket of popcorn. It's almost comical. And I keep those saved. And when I'm feeling bad, I'm like, well, but at least I can look forward to that concert that's coming up in 3 months. Well, speaking of which, I got some videos of some past concerts. Here's a little pro tip for concerts. I just love sharing this. I look at the set list ahead of time because there's usually one or two songs that I just don't care about, right? Every artist, even your most favorite artist, usually has that slow song that you're just like, oh, that one stinks. That's when I take the selfies. That's when I turn around, when that, heavy metal rock group you love decides that they were like in touch with their feelings and wrote that power ballad that's just awful, and they play it in the middle. That's when I take the selfies. That's when I record them on stage. That's when I take, picture of the stage, because that way I'm not missing my favorite songs. I'm not missing the finales, the openers, the big things. So, but that's just a little pro tip. Do it what it is. Some people live on their phone and they're okay with it. So I'm not judging, but I try to be mindful that I want to be in the moment as much as possible. But all of that, going back and watching those videos is awesome. Also, I just want to say this too. I know that it's going to conjure up like the 80s when your grandpa sat you down and forced you to watch the slideshow from Grandma and Grandpa's Vacation from Hell. Right. I get it. Yes, I know. But I do enjoy showing the pictures to my friends, usually for a few minutes, and they ask some questions and we talk about the event. That is also uplifting and gives me a lot of hope. And to tie it back to your question, Dr. Nicole, people remind me of this. They know it's important to me. So when they're like, Gabe, how are you feeling? I'm like, I feel really shitty. I feel really depressed. I don't feel like I'm ever going to get ahead. And they're like, oh man, remember when you were at Avril Lavigne? Remember when you saw Metallica? You're going to Oasis in a little bit. All of a sudden I'm like, I do remember that. So they remind me of it as well. And that's where that support team mentality comes in, because your support team can provide you hope too. Give them something to work with.
Yeah, no, that's a really great idea. I've even had some people who have used social media as that for them. They have used their social media platforms as that sort of digital slideshow of all the fun times, especially if you're not somebody who posts a lot and not a lot of the day-to-day stuff. If you're only posting the big things, your social media account then essentially becomes a highlight reel for you of all the great and wonderful things that has happened for you. And on platforms like Facebook, you can set a post where only you can see it. So I have a lot of people who just post a lot of their highlights, especially if they're not big social media sharers. They'll post it on Facebook with the setting where they're the only one that can see it, so that when it shows up in their memories and you get that annual reminder, and they enjoy the surprise of not having to go look for it. They enjoy the surprise of having it show up in your 1 year ago, this is what you were doing kind of thing.
Dr. Nicole, I have one last thing to say about this, and that is the try to say yes to invites as much as humanly possible. Obviously, we have time constraints, financial constraints. We all have our abilities, and there are certain things that we know that we will be absolutely miserable doing. But if you're on the fence about something, agree. In the last year, I have agreed to do more things than I have ever agreed to do before, ever. And I want to tell you, one of the things that I said yes to led to me being in an arena at 1 a.m. in the city that I live in, watching, and I'm not making this up, live wrestling with burlesque dancers in between. The burlesque dancers weren't wrestling, but it was literally a wrestling and burlesque show. And my friend invited me, and old Gabe would have been like, I don't like wrestling. I don't like burlesque. It's 1 a.m, which is like 4 hours past my bedtime. I ain't going. But I remember what my therapist said, be open to new ideas. I gotta tell you, this is one of the greatest nights of my life. My friend and I had an incredible time. They put on an incredible show. And no, I'm not touring the circuit. It was a new experience. The crowd was incredible. The performers did great. My friend and I had a wonderful time. They're wonderful memories. And we're going back next year. I'm not saying I'm a super fan. I'm just saying, you know what? There are worse ways to spend an evening than out with your friends watching this rowdy group of people getting the crowd to cheer and scream. It was excellent escapism, and I never would have gone before. The name of it is Wrestling a Go-Go. It's put on by a Galaxy Con. It's part of a larger event. So, we did a lot of new things that day, but that's the one that sticks out in my mind. It was a great adventure, and old Gabe would have said no. Old Gabe would have said no, gone to bed at 9:30 and missed out on the whole experience because I would have called it stupid, and Gabe would have been wrong. So all I'm saying is be open, if you are able, to new experiences, because the worst thing that can happen, and sincerely, Dr. Nicole, back me up on this. You're a doctor. People believe you more than me, right? Back me up on this. The worst thing that can happen is you go to an event, you spend a few hours, and you don't like it.
Yeah.
And you go home and you know that you're not going to do it again. Who cares? What have you actually lost?
Yeah, nothing. Ain't nothing. Maybe a little time, but what else would you have been doing with that time? Sitting at home, thinking about how miserable the world is? I mean, what would you have been doing?
Doom scrolling? Sitting at home doom scrolling? Saying nobody invites me places?
Right. And you got to spend time with somebody who's important to you. Even if you didn't enjoy what you were doing, they probably enjoyed it. And sometimes it's just fun being around people we care about, watching them be happy, doing things that they love. I mean, that is valuable time. And I love that it was something kind of silly, something that wasn't all serious and life changing. I love that it was something fun and silly for you.
It was incredibly fun and it was incredibly silly. And this is a perfect segue into our next thing that provides hope. Carve out some time to have some guilt-free fun. Do the ridiculous things. You know, have a 5-minute dance party in front of your mirror. Grab a blank piece of paper, some markers, paints, crayon, colored pencils, start doodling bright designs. I mean, just don't try to create perfect art. Don't even show it to anybody. You know, draw, color, 5, 10, play with glitter, whatever, throw it all away and tell no one. You know, look, if you want to be more productive, you know, get some sidewalk chalk, play with the neighborhood kids, play with your kids, play with the grandkids, play with whomever. You know, get a laser pointer and chase around a cat, throw a ball with your dog, play a game of solitaire, whatever it is that you think is wasteful and silly, and you don't have time for that. Create the space and the time just for like 5 or 10 minutes and do the thing. Do the thing. So often we have joy at our fingertips and we decide that is a waste of time and we feel guilty about it. We feel that we were unproductive. Don't think that way. Carve out 5 or 10 minutes. Have yourself some guilt-free fun.
Yeah. And I mean, I seem to recall recently seeing a video of you on social media dancing. I do.
You did. You saw that.
I did. I recently saw you dancing and I was like, look at Gabe being happy and dancing in the court. Look at him.
There's another example of where I decided that I should not say no. The producer of this podcast, Lisa, she's going to get a shout out. She has always tried to get me to do trends. This one was called Shimmy the Sad Away. Apparently shimmy is a type of dance and I did it wrong, but we'll just move past that for a moment. But she's always trying to get me to do these silly things. And I didn't want to do silly things. But she asked me and I thought, well, wait a minute. This is an example of where I could say no and not do it, but I'm going to say yes. I'm going to do it.
And we're back discussing the role hope plays in bipolar management.
I am going to dance for 30 seconds and I'm going to let her upload it and I'm going to see what happens. And one, I had a lot of fun making the video. Let's forget about any social media posts. I just had fun making it. Lisa kept turning on the song. I kept dancing. I kept missing the marks. I kept lip syncing wrong. I kept finishing too soon. I kept finishing too late. We laughed a lot making the video. And then we got the perfect take and I uploaded it. And look, it didn't go viral. I'm not about to tell you that it was seen by 1 million people, but it was seen by a couple of thousand people. And it was seen by people like Dr. Nicole, who I work with, who was just like, what the hell got into you? And then I had these fun conversations surrounding it, all because I stepped outside my comfort zone and all because I agreed to do something that I wouldn't normally agree to do. And because I had this silly moment of guilt-free fun. And I, yes, in my case, it was for work, so it's not exactly pure, but I do feel like there was a lot of personal value to it. And I recommend that you do it too.
But did you feel better after you did it? I mean, even if you didn't want to do it, this reminds me of people talk about fake smiling, fake laughing, and how it affects certain areas of your brain and can make you feel better, can lead to you feeling a little lighter, feeling a little better, even when you don't feel like laughing or smiling. And you think, that's dumb. You didn't feel like dancing and smiling and pretending to have a good time, but somewhere in there, you probably, for even if a short time, forgot that you were faking it. And you were like, oh, this is kind of fun. You had a good time.
We've all heard the fake it till you make it. And I do think there's a lot of wisdom in it. I think it can sometimes go too far. I want to put that caveat on it. You know, I do dislike it intensely when we tell, like, you know, suicidal people, fake it until you make it. Or when somebody's experiencing very severe depression, oh, fake it until you make it. It's like we're not in that space where it's capable. But I do think there's a window where you can decide. You can decide, okay, I'm going to put on a brave face and I'm going to go try. And in my example of the sad shimmy, which is what the social media trend was called. In my example, when I first did it, I was kind of just trying to make Lisa happy. I was trying to do the thing. I was trying to get it done, and I was trying not to look too stupid. But when the music was playing and I was jumping up and down and I was dancing, I remembered concerts that I'd been to. I remembered when my vow renewal where I danced with, all of the little kids, and, kids they just jump up and down, and I jumped up and down with them. And the final thing that I remembered, which was really unexpected, and why I'm really glad that you brought this up, Dr. Nicole, is before I started walking, before I lost some weight, before I started drinking water, before I started paying attention to the third pillar of bipolar wellness, which is lifestyle changes, I don't think that I could have jumped up and down for 30 seconds and did 5 takes. I don't, I'm pushing 50, guys. Jumping up and down, waving my hands and screaming for 3 minutes straight. That's not something I think I would have been able to do a year ago. So that kicked in as well. Yeah. I feel stupid? Absolutely. I absolutely felt stupid, but I also felt pride and joy, and that was unexpected. And I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad Lisa talked me into it.
Me too. Go, Lisa.
Lisa always does the things, keeping up with that vein. And we've discussed it a little bit already, but I want to make sure that we really let the audience know that one of the things that breeds hope is remembering past laughs and good times.
Yeah, we did talk about taking pictures and documenting it and those kinds of things. But some of the things that made us feel good, some of the moments where we had some of the biggest laughs, they aren't really the moments where you pull out the phone and take a picture. They really aren't those kinds of moments. So it's okay to document them in other ways. I mean, we all have notes apps on our phone, and we all can find a piece of paper and a pen. You figure out how you want to document that. Journaling might be a good way for you to do that. Some people have a journal that is just filled with the good stuff. It is just a feel good journal. It is the time that you randomly called your grandma and she was excited to hear from you and she told you a funny story from when you were a kid, or you helped someone and they were so thankful and you felt so warm and fuzzy, and you think about like the feeling, like I felt so good. That felt good. It might be something very silly, like your pet did something funny that they had never done and you laughed hysterically for a few minutes. Write it all down. I mean, those are the things, the small things that are so much more attainable and achievable, sometimes beyond the big things that we think about. So finding ways to remember those moments is so important.
One of the things that I really love is concerts. And one of the things that I do is I make a playlist of every concert that I ever go to. And I name it, like Avril Lavigne, Madison Square Garden, May 2025. And the exact set list that she played in the exact order I make, and then I save it on my music player. And then I can revisit them. And I've only been doing this now for about a year. I went back and did some of the ones that I went to earlier when I came up with this idea about 6 months ago. But, sometimes I'll just be sitting there and I'll be sad. I'll be like, remember that time I went to Alanis Morissette with my wife and my best friend, and we had to walk in the mud, and my friend wore the 4-inch heels in the 1 mile parking lot mud walk because it had rained the night before. And I will listen to that playlist and it will remind me of those stories. That builds a lot of hope when I'm sad. And I think many of us use music to elevate our moods, and creating a playlist around memories, I think, can be very valuable. For me, it's concerts that I've been to, but other people have made things like energy mix, depression mix, I'm going to make it through the week mix. And it's just songs that inspire them. I think that helps and instills a lot of hope. If you can tie them to memories, great. But I think music, we cannot leave out music for many people, creates a lot of hope.
And it doesn't even have to be concerts. If you're not a concert goer, that's not your scene, it's not your jam, whatever it is for you can serve the same purpose. Music is a very important part of most of our lives. Maybe you're a Broadway person like me and you love a good Broadway show. So maybe you load up the soundtrack to that show that you saw in your hometown, or maybe you had the chance to go to New York and see a play on Broadway. The music for you is the music for you, and it just may not be someone else's choice.
And here's a few ideas to remember the moments that can be kind of fun and lead to other adventures. This seems to be the Lisa episode. She's getting several shout outs today. But one of the things that Lisa does is she buys magnets to things that she has done throughout her life. And she calls them magnet-worthy things. So when we go someplace, a concert, a show, visit a new city, a restaurant, if it was a great experience for Lisa, it becomes magnet worthy. And she buys a magnet and puts it on her refrigerator. Now that's step one, right? So step one is you gotta have the thing, and you gotta buy the magnet, and you gotta put it on your refrigerator. All right. But then she is intentional about standing in front of the refrigerator and looking at all these magnets. And each magnet becomes a time capsule. It becomes a DeLorean to transport her back to that moment where she can remember going to that play or going to that concert or going to that event. And, Lisa is ultra cool because she figured out a long time ago that most places have sucky magnets. So she even started making magnets. She literally buys things like pins or keychains or other tchotchkes and smooths out the back, glues a magnet to the back on it so she can put it on her refrigerator. I have witnessed firsthand the value that this has brought to Lisa's life. Now, listen, I want to disclose that this is not something that I do. I don't want a refrigerator with 10,000 magnets on it, but I have been recommending this for years as a speaker, podcast host, and mental health advocate. And I've gotten so much feedback over the years of people who are doing the magnet thing, whether they put them on their refrigerator or a bulletin board, it's up to them. But I've also seen people take this idea and sort of further it out, right? They buy stickers of events or postcards of events and put them in a book that they can thumb through. I've seen people take pictures and they're like, hey, this event was picture print worthy, meaning they went to the local, grocery store or Walmart and paid the 39 cents to print the physical picture and mount it in a book. And these books are not like works of art. They're just like generic books they bought at Target or Walmart or whatever and stuck stuff in. I don't want anybody to think fancy scrapbooking here, but I've also seen the fancy scrapbooks. And these things are practically heirloom items. Like someday, 100 years from now, somebody's going to pull these things out and be like, oh my God, look what Nana did. Look what Uncle Gabe did. I mean, so however you decide to make magnet-worthy remembrances, I think there's a lot to build on with that idea. But the most important thing, Dr. Nicole, is the most important thing. You've got to be intentional about it. If everything is magnet-worthy, nothing is. If nothing is magnet worthy, then you're not doing it right? You've got to be intentional. You got to remember what you want to remember, buy the things for that, and be intentional about revisiting those moments. That's where the magic is.
I do agree that everything may not be magnet worthy, but I also believe that probably in a lot of very small, mundane, not spectacular moments, we can find the bright spots. And especially for those scrapbook people, I mean, they can make the most random weekend look like it was amazing. And you think, wow, I don't even think I realized how much fun we had during that one weekend. That's pretty amazing. So I do believe if you are the kind of person who can find those little moments in even the small things, you find them. Don't let Gabe stop you. You find them.
Hey, magnet worthy is up to you. It's not whether it's magnet worthy to Gabe, Dr. Nicole, Lisa, your mom, your dad, your brothers. You know how many magnet worthy items I have rolled my eyes at? I have stood next to Lisa while she's buying a magnet, and I'm like, this was not magnet worthy. And she's like, no, it was incredibly magnet worthy. This is prominent placement magnet worthy. Don't let Gabe steal your joy.
That is fair.
You decide. It only matters to you.
And for the loved ones listening, it's not for you to decide. It's for them to decide. My husband is also a magnet person. So whenever we take trips, big trips, he always finds magnets. Not gonna lie. Sometimes I'm thinking, do we need a magnet here? We just got one yesterday at the other place. But it is not for me to decide what he feels is magnet worthy, because obviously he knows, like, oh no, I want a magnet from this place. It's not about me. It's about him.
And here's a pro tip for all of our family, friends, and support people who are listening. If your loved one with bipolar disorder does some version of the magnets, whether it's, stickers, pictures, etc., and they're depressed, a little pro tip, ask them about it. If you know that they just went to something and you know that they're not feeling their best and that they're struggling, say, hey, show me those pictures from that event. Or, hey, what does this magnet mean? Or, hey, which one of these is your favorite? Hey, what's the story behind this? This will start a positive conversation that has nothing to do with bipolar disorder and evoke feelings of joy. All right, I know we're reaching the end of the episode, and there's a couple things that I wanted to make sure that we touched on that can drive hope, and but they're not as exciting as the things we've already talked about. So we buried them at the end. That doesn't mean stop listening. Just these are going to go quicker. It's kind of like the speed round. But one of them is be intentional about dealing with your distorted thinking. Ask yourself honestly, I have this belief that X is true. I am now going to face head on whether or not that is true. One of the things that I believe is that I'm a failure. It's a chronic distortion that I have where I honestly believe that I'm a failure. And one of the things that drives a lot of hope is when I realize that if I joined a debate club, Dr. Nicole, and somebody said, okay, we're going to debate whether or not Gabe's a failure. Which side do you want to be on? Gabe is a failure or Gabe is a success? Well, I want to win, so I'm going to pick success. But yet I believe I'm a failure. So addressing that for me really breeds a lot of hope, because when I really look at the facts, I'm like, okay, this is some distorted thinking. I feel like a failure, but I'm actually successful. I've accomplished a reasonable amount of things for a reasonable middle-class American middle-aged guy. And I need to give myself more grace and credit. And that really helps fuel me and give me some hope. And I'll be the first to admit, stupid hard to do, but dealing with your distorted thinking will restore hope in your brain. Like, whoa.
And there's so many cognitive distortions, we call them, that can interfere here and that can play a role here. You mentioned some of yours. Other people might experience where they discount any of the positive things that have happened. So if you are constantly saying, well, that time I was happy didn't really count because it didn't last that long. Or, well, I mean, yes, I did this good thing and I did feel good then, but that's not the overarching feeling that I have. That can do you a grave disservice. For some people, it's the emotional reasoning, right? It's the, I feel this way, so it really must be so. Those kinds of things can get you into a lot of trouble and really, really get in the way of your hope.
Bottom line, feelings are not facts. But more importantly than that, bottom line, bipolar disorder lies, right? It is a mental illness. It attacks your brain and it convinces you that the things that provide you with hope and joy are bullshit and you shouldn't pay attention to them. That is bipolar disorder being bipolar disorder. Don't play into its hand by believing the lies. If you want to have hope dealing with that distorted thinking, whether it's through cognitive behavioral therapy, whether it's working with your doctor, Nicole, whether it's through adjustments in medications, whether it's self-help, whether it's just constantly telling yourself, bipolar disorder wants me to believe this lie, but it is a lie. I am actually X, not Y. Dealing with that will create a lot of hope. Now, Dr. Nicole, this next one, I don't really have a lot of personal experience with, but it's getting in touch with your spiritual side. I am not a very spiritual person. I'm not a very religious person. It's not part of my recovery, but I have seen it be an incredible tool for people managing mental health, bipolar disorder, etc. And I want to take a moment to make sure that, just because it's not my lived experience, it doesn't get buried because of how important it is for so many people managing bipolar disorder.
And Gabe, there are a lot of people who tell me I consider myself a spiritual person. I do not consider myself a religious person. And I think that space is a little bit more common and a little bit easier for people to wrap themselves around. Your spirituality can be based in religion. Spirituality can be based in whatever your religious beliefs are. It can be prayer. It can be that I attend church. It can be that I enjoy listening to worship music. All of those things can get you more in tune with that side of you. And that can be a source of hope for a lot of people. But sometimes it's taking that hike and looking out over wherever you've climbed to and just viewing the view and thinking, wow, like this is amazing just to be able to see this. This was formed. This wasn't always here. That can be a spiritual moment for you. And sometimes you can feel things. You hear a song, you witness an event, you witness a miracle in life, and you think, wow. And there are things like that can touch your spiritual side that really have nothing to do with being a religious person. So I do encourage people, if you don't feel that religion is the place that you want to go, I think that there is a difference between your spiritual side, your spiritual practice, and having an active practice of a particular religion.
I think that there can be a lot of hope in looking at the world outside of yourself, whether that's, communing with nature, whether that's watching a sunrise, whether it's just going for a walk. I saw the redwoods. And again, I just announced to all the listeners that I'm not a very spiritual or religious person. And yet when I saw the redwoods in California, the coastal redwoods, and realized that these trees were hundreds of years old and they were gigantic, just the scope of it was breathtaking and really made me realize in many ways how insignificant I am in the world, but also how incredibly meaningful that I exist at the same time with them. It's a lot to take in. And I think whatever you call that is really important. Some people call that a religious experience. Some people call it a spiritual experience. Some people just call it communing with nature, getting outside of yourself. I've even heard it tied to mindfulness practices. Whatever it is, looking at the world through different lenses or considering your role in the world or your lack of role in the world, I think it really can drive a lot of hopefulness and can really change the way that you think. And let's face it, when we're battling mood disorders with bipolar disorder, changing the way we think is a very positive thing.
Yeah, and being open to finding hope wherever it lies is also a very valuable thing.
We've covered a lot about hope, and it's, in a way, when this topic first came up, it's like, hey, let's talk about hope. And I was like, what namby-pamby BS is this? Be hopeful that you're going to get better. Like, how is that helpful? Like, I have made a career off of telling people to be intentional and to take responsibility and to work hard and to keep moving forward. And hope to me, Dr. Nicole, always sounded like I'm going to sit here and do nothing in hopes it gets better. I was wrong. That's not what hope is. Hope is just believing that you can do it and then doing it. So I'm really glad that we did this episode because, I was kind of disrespectful of hope, and I apologize for that.
You were, and you should.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We need so many favors from you. Wherever you download or listen to this episode, please follow or subscribe. It is absolutely free and you don't want to miss a thing. And we need a favor from you. Share the Inside Bipolar podcast everywhere you go. Bring it up in support groups. Share your favorite episodes on social media. Leave us a comment or a review. Sharing the show with the people you know is how we're going to grow. My name is Gabe Howard, and I'm an award-winning public speaker, and I could be available for your next event. I also wrote the book Mental Illness is an Asshole and Other Observations, which you can get on Amazon, but you don't want to get it there. You want to go to GabeHoward.com and get a signed copy with some free swag that I'll throw in. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Ask a Bipolar.
And I'm Dr. Nicole Washington. You can find me on all social media platforms at Dr. Nicole Psych or on my website, drnicolepsych.com.
And we will see everybody next time on Inside Bipolar.
You've been listening to Inside Bipolar from Healthline Media and PsychCentral.com. Have feedback for the show? Email us at show@PsychCentral.com. Previous episodes can be found at PsychCentral.com/IBP or on your favorite podcast player. Thank you for listening.